Hey everybody, NoLimitsNick here, and today I got a few announcements to make for this week's podcast. And you're probably wondering, this week's podcast? You already released one this week. Well, yes I did, but that was recorded nearly 2 weeks ago now, and I didn't have enough time to come up with this week's cast and topic together. That'll be saved for next week. I want to say we're doing something about Hearthstone or card games. But I want to keep myself back in the swing of things because I've been very busy behind the scenes doing not only the podcast, but streaming, schoolwork, and esports club business. Because I was actually at an esports event last week, I want to say, last Sunday, put on by the University of Arizona, and it was a fantastic event. But in doing so, going to it, I kind of burnt myself out. So I'm just redoing everything that I can to get back on schedule. All right, so I'm going to be alone this week. I'm going to be alone. No guest this week, so just be me, your lovely host, NoLimitsNick, for this week's iteration of the Elitist Gaming Podcast. So what's this week's topic? Well, I'm going to do something different, kind of like a storytelling kind of podcast, since I am alone. And I was watching a esports event this last week put on at South by Southwest, and I was watching Halo's tournament. Their 2v2s, 4v4s, and then their phenomenal 8v8 big team battle event. If you haven't watched it, I will put the big team battle event in the description below because it was one of the best esports events I have ever watched. And it kind of reminded me of something. And looking back and playing a bunch of Halo on my streams lately, this franchise has stood the test of time. And this franchise, 2001, almost 18 years old? That's really old. And it's a console exclusive to this day, even though they just announced the PC versions of the Master Chief Collection. And I think we all know by now, or people in the gaming community know by now, that Halo 6 is going to be on PC as well. So I was looking back at Halo's from the beginning and to where it is now, and it has stood the test of time. It has not only, revolutionized the first-person shooter genre, but it's also been able to evolve with the genre and the market itself as esports has grown. So I kind of want to take a look at that and show the evolution over the course of this few games we have. And because we do have something called the Master Chief Collection, where we have this franchise almost all on one disc, and you can go back and see not only the graphical improvement but the gameplay improvement, and all of which, and play your favorite Halos, whether it be 1, 2, 3, 4, or in a future Reach, all on one disc. And I will make a spoiler now. I will be playing the campaign today on my stream today. The Halo servers were kind of iffy. I'll put that in air quotes, iffy, with some lag and whatnot. But we'll just be playing some Halo campaign to kill in the meantime. So we're playing one of my favorite missions of all time, Truth and Reconciliation. And for those of you who don't know, basically just rescuing your captain from an alien cruiser parked above the sky, and you just guys sneak in the middle of the night with a sniper rifle, a squad of Marines, and you just go in guns blazing. But enough of the story. What made this game so good? What sold people on this? Well, firstly, I would say you're playing as the Master Chief. You're a 7-foot-tall human super soldier on this unknown ring. You're fighting this group of aliens that want to destroy humanity for an unknown reason, and you're just almost left with a bunch of questions asking yourself. You got this. You have your best friend AI Cortana in your head, and you got these load of guns. Some of which are familiar that we know, like the assault rifle and sniper rifle. Others are much more mysterious, like the Needler. But they're fun and almost silly in a way. I remember as a kid, 6-year-old me playing Halo, or I should say 5-year-old me. Good lord. 5-year-old me playing a kneeler and just laughing as the aliens just run away in fear as I pelt them with these needles and they explode in a pink cloud of dust. Just like that right there. And the grunts go flying and the grunts go running away because I killed their commander. Oh jeez. There's another one right there. I now know the pain of my fellow guests when they multitask on my podcast while we're recording this. This is going to be a difficult podcast for me to talk about. I might ramble on here and there. But so what made it so we got the simplicity with the silly and unfamiliar with, or I should say this, the canny and uncanny weapons of this franchise. And you play through the campaign, you learn about Halo, the big ring world we're on right now. And afterwards you have multiplayer, and multiplayer is kind of a loose term here because we didn't have the multiplayer that we know now, where you can hook up with friends from any part of the country, or even any part of the world, and play for hours on end. You're actually very much more limited back then than we are now. And what I mean by limited? Well, you kind of just had people you knew from your school or your town, I should say, to play with. So maybe you're at school, you're playing with one of your friends, and they kind of whisper in your ear, it's like, hey, I got this really cool game called Halo. You should come over to my house and play with me. And so you're like, what's this game? Halo sounds so cool. It's telling me about the Master Chief and the Covenant, and we can 1v1 each other. What does this all mean? And you go over, and when you're done with playing a campaign, he takes you to this place called Blood Gulch. And there's no aliens, there's no Marines, it's just you two, and you're fighting each other, figuring out who's the best of the best. And that's your multiplayer experience. It's the people in your house or in your neighborhood, and you just spend most of your time figuring out who's the best Halo player in the neighborhood. And it was kind of the beginning of those little LAN events that we see now in esports, where the best people in the world go play for hundreds of thousands of dollars in front of audiences of thousands. Well, that audience back then was just your friends, maybe your parents if they were curious, or were mean and kicked you off after an hour. But it was a much smaller audience. We wouldn't get the kind of multiplayer we have now until 2004. Oh geez, grunts, go away. But yeah, it'll be 2004 with Xbox Live coming out, and Halo 2. That's kind of when the franchise really took off, and we really started to see the birth of esports in the FPS genre, with big names coming out. And again, it was still small, but we now had a legitimate way to figure out who is the best player in the world, or who are the best teams as well in this world. And so, God, I need to actually look. I want to say this Halo 1 got Game of the Year, and it became Microsoft's franchise for the Xbox. From the start of the Xbox till now, I believe it's still their franchise. And with the amount of FPSs today, it's still able to compete with them. I think I remember back in middle school, maybe late elementary school, there was always this conversation about which franchise is better, Halo or Call of Duty. And with Call of Duty, you always had people who had a PlayStation, or maybe the occasional PC person, and you kind of had to fight, or not fight them, but debate with them. That's probably a better way of saying it. Either debate them in which franchise is better. And while they both had massive followings, you have to hand the respect to Halo because of its exclusivity and its massive fan base. He's no taking a drink of water here. As hunters fly down on top of us. But I think for me, my earliest memory was just doing this campaign of Halo. As a kid, this is kind of where you start like learning like swear words and whatnot, and you start learning words that you aren't supposed to say, like, oh, these are adult words. This is why this game's rated M. That's kind of just me in a nutshell of learning this game. But it's missions like this one right here where I'll just repeat them over and over again, not just to speedrun or anything, but just because I'm having so much fun, and I still have so much fun. And that's kind of what prompted me to do this, was because I still am baffled that a game this old, nearly 20 years old, is better than some modern first-person shooters. And the fact I'm able to do this solo podcast and play this game and not be bored out of my mind and mentally, kind of attests to it. And even though this franchise has changed developers, it's still really good. Like Halo 5, I won't go into story details of it, but the multiplayer is probably the best it's been in the last since 2010 when Reach came out. Like, they're still ridiculously fun. Oh, frag out. Funny story about this mission is that the Marine who would become Sergeant Johnson, he was actually just a generic sergeant soldier. There's a tongue twister right there for you. And I enjoyed his voice actor or lines more than the other commanding Marine you could get. So I would, pause the game, either like kill my character or restart the last checkpoint until I got a specific until I got that Sergeant Johnson soldier. And keep in mind, I'm a kid. Of course it's a silly excuse to restart the game over and over again. But still, I got a very iconic voice actor, and I think it just improved my overall game experience when doing this. And there goes a fireworks of explosions that knocked me out. All right, come here, you. Die. So let's say this, or let's ask another question here. Halo 2. I'm gonna continue playing Halo 1, but we're gonna talk about Halo 2 now. Halo 2, the sequel to this very popular Game of the Year sequel. It's basically like a blockbuster movie that everyone's seeing, like The Lord of the Rings or The Avengers for video games. And people are excited for the sequel. And what do we get? Almost a masterpiece, despite the ending being all, kind of weird and whatnot. But we got almost a masterpiece of a sequel. I would say a rare occasion of which the sequel outdoes the original. And for the first time on Xbox, we get Xbox Live, the multiplayer platform that allowed the world to play with each other. You weren't no longer not reduced, but limited to who you were playing with. Well, is it the people die? I think people are dead. But no, what I'm saying, you're not reduced to like people. You're not reduced to people like in your neighborhood or on your couch. You can now like expand to the world. Or you can expand to the world, and you can finally see like, okay, who is the best player in the world? or who's the best team makeup in the world. And Halo actually does a good job of this. So what do I mean by that? So in multiplayer nowadays, you have to select like a hero. Like you're almost choosing a class. You're not just a generic soldier or super soldier in this case. You are making a class selection. Like in Overwatch, you're choosing a hero, or even in COD, like I said, you're choosing a hero, and the best hero makeup will ultimately grant you the best advantage. In Halo, and even early Call of Duty, you're just a generic soldier. You start with the same weapon, same amount of grenades, and the same amount of health. And you all do the same amount of damage. There's not one Spartan is better than the other. And so it's a very true test of skill. And you have the shields and health system. So let's say you go in and someone gets a jump on you and they make a mistake, like they missed a shot or something. I thought I get shot by myself. I thought I hit this. But you go in, like I said, you have this. Someone gets a jump on you, but they miss a few shots, or you jump off a barrel or something and get some good ground, and then boom, you suddenly have the advantage and knock their health down to 0. And all of a sudden, what should have been them beating you, you're able to flip the table around and beat them, even though they had every advantage they could on the game. The odds were stacked in their favor, and they still lost. And that's what I love a lot about this game, and they still do it to this day. I have to snipe that guy. I think all my Marines are dead. Yep, they are. This is very interesting. I've never seen this happen before. But anyway, back to the topic. But that was kind of like Halo in its nuts. That's kind of Halo on its own. And I'm getting tongue twisted here. This is not good multitasking, Nick. But what's the word I'm looking for here? I'm kind of lost as I run some jackals. I said it was just an even playing field with Halo. That's kind of what we did, or they did. For me myself, I didn't play any multiplayer through the first 2 games. I was stuck with the campaign, so I was fighting Flood. I was losing my mind when I realized you could be the Arbiter and play as an elite in multiplayer. I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. I can actually be one of the alien characters that I've been shooting for, what, 3 years now? Walking down the hallway. And so my multiplayer experience didn't come until Halo 3. So what did I get in Halo 3? Well, in Halo 3, it's probably arguably one of the best, and that's what's fun about talking about legendary franchises like this with many sequels and some prequels we can say as well with Halo Reach, is which iteration of the game was the best. I have this conversation a lot when I'm talking to people about World of Warcraft, a game that's a little bit younger than this, but yet people will fiercely debate like what is the best Halo, what is the best World of Warcraft expansion, what is the best of the best, when was the best time to be playing this. For me, it's Halo Reach, but Halo 3 is also a really good second. So what made it so good? Well, again, it was that even Steven playing field that we had back in Halo 2 and Halo 1, but it's on the brand new Xbox 360. The controls are really good, and to me, it was the perfect blend of Halo 1 and Halo 2. So we had the dual wielding mechanic that was introduced into Halo 1, which I love to death. And you have the classic assault rifle from Halo 1 coming back. Plus you have the choice of making, Marine or the Spartans versus Elites. you have that choice still to pick between the two species. But also, it kind of introduced us to this world of competitiveness. So it was really my first introduction to what's the word I'm looking for here? To ranked playlists. Obviously, for my brain, I did not understand between the idea of social and competitive. I mainly played social because why not? I enjoyed the playlist in there. So if you're competitive and sweaty, you have the competitive playlist like 4v4, hardcore modes. But if you're a social person or someone who plays for fun like I did, like I am right now, you have games like, Big Team Battle, Griffball, Fiesta. So what makes a game like this so good is that you have a good variety of games and playstyles that you can choose to have. I think if a game goes too competitive, like too competitive or too sweaty, that's the only mentality you have. And that's kind of my issue nowadays with games, is that you have to a lot of games are built with a competitive scene in mind. It's like, we're going to focus on a competitive scene, we're going to focus on an esports scene, an esports league, and get all these pro players together and play and get this comp going. But there really isn't much focused on a social playlist. So what's a good game? Like trying to think. So I think for me it's like the BRs. The BRs, this is my one criticism of BR games, is that there's very few social playlists. Or I should not say split. There's no like split between the pros and the casuals, I would say, or people want to play for fun. So when you're playing like a game like Apex, let's say like I want to play for fun with my buddies, we're gonna have some jokes, maybe crack a drink or so, and all of a sudden like you get put in a game with like a big streamer like Ninja, Dr. Lupo, or Shroud, and all of a sudden you're like, oh god, we have to go from having fun to like being competitive in a heartbeat, even though you never originally signed up to be competitive. It's like, can't I just play a game for fun? Like, kill a few hours, have some fun, get a few laughs in. And that's kind of my issue with some of the games nowadays, is that they're just too competitive. There's not a lot of... Sometimes you just want to take a break from the competition and sweatiness and just have a good laugh with your friends. That's all I'm saying. And so that's what Halo 3 comes down to, is... As I stick this person... See, that's the point. Like, sorry to deviate right now, but that's what made Halo so fun right there, is that idea that you stuck someone with a sticky grenade. I could have thrown a frag grenade or got my sniper rifle out and killed him, but I chose to go with the sticky nade. And, he did that little funny animation right there. And even when I'm playing multiplayer and I stick someone, it's like, oh my god. Actually, final story before I go back on track with Halo's matchmaking and multiplayer. I was actually on stream today playing Valhalla, and I get off the man cannon and I snipe someone all the way across the map from like near midfield in the air, and I just jumped out of my seat and like nearly screamed because I couldn't believe what I just did. I deal with this guy right here. And again, I'm doing this in a game that's over almost 18 years old. So if I can do that, and other games give me like half the reaction as that, this is a great... This shows that how much of a great franchise it is. So Halo 3 multiplayer, what made it so, like I said, what made it so good again? Like there was obviously the map variety, there was the even Steven playing field, but you had, like I said, you had the variety of game types. And I'm sure I already said this. Like I said, there's comp, there's social, and then there's the holiday one. So like, what was a great holiday playlist for me, like in Halo, where I can just play the game differently, but have a fun time doing so. For me, the first two that come to mind is Infection, where you're playing with 12 people. It's sort of like this free-for-all game mode, but you're killing zombies. And now I'm thinking to yourself, zombies in Halo? How does that work? Well, one person's an infected, or it spawns as, like, I would say, no, not one, but two people spawn as the infected. They have a sword, and their job is to infect the other players by killing them. And as more people get infected, the odds slowly turn in the infected favor, and it comes down to like this last person standing, and that stress, or that scariness, I should say, of being the last person. It's like, okay, how long can I last with 11 people chasing me down? Can I last? And it was so much fun. I loved it. The second game type, oh god, is that Elitist? Aw. The second game type, speaking of swords, the second game type that comes to my mind when I think of holiday playlists in Halo 3 was the Griff Ball, a game mode based or created by a film company, a machinima company called Rooster Teeth, based on their hit series Red vs. Blue, named after one of their characters named Griff. And it's this very modified version of Assault, which is where you just take a bomb to an enemy base and plant it. But they were able to manipulate the bomb via their custom games to instantly explode. And they just they just gave everybody gravity hammers and energy swords and set to insta kill. And it's just so much fun when you're in this little very small arena with these very powerful weapons, and it's a different change up. It's almost like you're playing an exactly different game, but I can leave that Griffball game and go back to shooting aliens, or shooting and teabagging other players in Slayer. It's a very great variety of this game, of this franchise. Finally, the last thing I want to touch on was, and I think this is really going to touch some people's nostalgia nerve. It really touched mine. Was the achievements they had in Halo 3. And I want to ask this question for people in the comments: who remembers the VidMaster achievements? You know where I'm going with this one. So people get mad. People get very upset when like cosmetics are locked behind microtransactions and a paywall. Well, in Halo 3, there was this series of achievements called VidMasters. 7 achievements that gave you the Recon armor set. I can proudly say that I got it. And it was probably still one of my favorite achievements in gaming to this date. And it forced me to change how I play the game. It made me get my friends together and be like, hey, we're gonna do this. We're not gonna play comp or anything. We're not gonna get sweaty. We're gonna have a good time, go for these really hard achievements that the game has put in front of us, and we're going to get a super cool cosmetic achievement behind this achievement, or behind these events. How did he die? Come on, man. Come on, AI. Stick with me. I'm running out of time here. This is gonna be a really short podcast for me. I'll probably say this for later, but let me just save and quit here. So, what do I have to say about Halo in my conclusions, and why do I believe it's the king of FPSs? Well, I think with Halo, we can trace our steps back to we can trace, or not trace our steps, but we can trace back, the phenomenon of Halo multiplayer, or not Halo multiplayer, well, multiplayer in general and first-person shooters back to this singular moment, or to this singular franchise. Without it, I'm not sure if any of what we have today will be possible. I think people will still be trying to concoct a formula to bring everyone together for first-person shooters in a way in which we can all play together. So, for me, this is still one of my favorite franchises of all time. It has some of my favorite memories. I have, like other games like World of Warcraft, I have seen my skill rise from just someone who plays for fun and to someone who can play at a above average level. And every so often we go back and play old games to relive the childhood experience. I don't think any have had more of the nostalgia impact than Halo has, because I just think that we have those memories where, like, we can remember little Billy coming to our house telling us about how he was able to manipulate the fusion cores on Sand Trap and get the elephant to fly in the air like a rocket, or how we get the text from our friend asking us to do the annual or Deja Vu Vim Masters, and we spend the next couple of hours just banging our heads to get these achievements, and that satisfaction of getting them is about as satisfying as winning like the highest tournament a FPS or a esports event can offer us. And that's what I believe makes this game so good. So I know this was a kind of a different-ish podcast. I wanted to try this differently. Obviously it's first and I don't expect it to be perfect, but let me know what you guys say in the comments. If you want me to do this again, I'll be more than happy to do this again. I'll probably get better notes next time, and a little bit more time as well. I'm kind of on a tight schedule today to get this podcast out. But other than that, I think this is where we will end the podcast for today. So to everyone listening, thank you so much. I know this is kind of new and different, as I said before, but this is kind of me getting back on track, back on schedule, and the swing of things for this podcast. Next week, we'll be probably talking about card games like Hearthstone, Magic the Gathering. I have one guest confirmed so far. I'm going to try to get others set up as well, so we'll be ready for next week, or this coming week, I should say. And as for the future, I won't talk about championship season because we're getting close to that time of year where high school and college sports are entering their championship season or postseasons. I'm going to get a couple guys on there to talk about that, hopefully, and we can shed some light on the esports world of championship level teams and winning championships in themselves. As for that, you can follow me on Twitter, look for updates, see what I post and whatnot. You can follow me on Twitch. I am live streaming on there. In my previous video that I made an announcement about, I got my sub button, so you guys can subscribe to me over there if you want to. Don't have to. A follow is just fine. And as always, if you enjoyed this, share this around with your friends. Go watch the other podcasts that I have in the Elitist Gaming Podcast channel itself. If you're on SoundCloud, please sure to give us a follow over there, and tune in for new podcasts every week over there. And as always, wherever you are around the world, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. All right, bye bye.